it started off at a higher point than the first roster, and it was easier to work with. So it just seemed like this is the way, like it just seemed really clear cut, like this was the way to go. Once we started moving rosters around, even though it was like, I think especially at the time, like a huge kind of emotional attachment to Someday because he's like such a big performer and he was a big carry for the team, and he's still probably like, I don't know, top laner in North America, and not putting on the main roster was like a lot of internal arguments with myself. Like,
yeah,
how dumb am I to bench this guy?
This is Zento from Esports Heaven, and I have here with me Pr0lly from 100 Thieves. Now, you guys just beat TSM in a pretty convincing fashion, I would say, especially with how you guys handled the macro. But I want to talk about the draft first because you guys ended up picking Sejuani over Aatrox. So do you think Sejuani is just a more powerful pick right now, or?
I was just expecting, like, when we played against TSM last time and they had Sedge that did like level 2 cheese ganks and stuff like that, so the priority for her changed a bit for us because we didn't want to deal with any like cheesy stuff that we haven't seen before, and like obviously it's Amazing's good on Sejuani, so Fake Out's champion pool, we increased it a lot this week, so dropping Aatrox priority like wasn't too big of an issue for us because we were expecting to play other stuff, but Aatrox is a strong pick for sure, so it was just, you know, put faith in our rookie to kind of perform.
Yeah, that was another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the Renekton. He actually didn't look too bad on the Renekton. So was that a pick that you guys have been practicing, or like what was going on with that? Because I noticed Amazing was also playing towards topside heavily, and in the very beginning, you guys were able to zone off the Aatrox really hardcore for like 2 waves, so that screwed him over. But then there were a couple botch ganks top, and then it started
more than 2.
Yeah.
More than 2, yeah.
So is this a pick that you guys are practiced with quite a bit, or?
Yeah, so we still had a couple of more choices, but I felt like Renekton was going to be the best matchup for it this time. So, yeah, like I said, yeah, with Fake Out in the last couple of weeks, like I think he hasn't been really able to show himself too much on stage yet. I think he's still kind of adapting. And this last week, we're starting to see more, like he's performing well in scrims, but in a way that it would be replicable on stage. So this week definitely felt like he was kind of coming back into form. So, you know, this weekend kind of felt like the right time to kind of put that responsibility on him. Like, okay, like they have Aatrox and 1-2, like we're dropping your pick to 4-5. Is that good with you? He's like, yep, I got enough champions. I'm like, all right, let's fucking do it. So
that's cool.
Yeah, there's just a lot of confidence going on, and there's still a lot of picks that he's played, and he was pretty happy that he got a Kled ban and a GP ban. So I think he appreciated the respect, but was happy he could still perform.
Yeah, I think that's got to feel good whenever they throw the respect ban out. That's like, oh yeah, all right, you scared of that. So I want to talk about just 100 Thieves in general, because you guys have had a really rocky split.
Yeah.
And a really rocky year, I guess. So why is this iteration of 100 Thieves working? Like what's clicking with you guys right now?
I think a lot of it is just how the players can interact with each other. Like, it's one of the moments where, like, on paper, I think the original one makes a lot more sense, but in reality, when you see them behind the scenes practicing, like, you can feel like there's a lot of holes and gaps in the way they play together. With this one, it felt like it was a lot more patched up just naturally, like, without, you know, coach intervention. Is just literally how the way they like naturally played against each other's like body movements and language was just a lot better and a lot smoother. So growing that group of players, which was like, yeah, the second roster, it started off at a higher point than the first roster, and it was easier to work with. So it just seemed like this is the way, like it just seemed really clear cut, like this was the way to go. Once we started moving rosters around, even though it was like, I think especially at the time, like a huge kind of emotional attachment to Someday because he's like such a big performer and he was a big carry for the team, and he's still probably like, I don't know, top laner in North America, and not putting on the main roster was like a lot of internal arguments with myself. Like, how dumb am I to bench this guy? Kind of moment. So it was when we saw them play, it was pretty easy, but to actually pull the trigger on the decision was really hard, given the circumstances that our main roster had.
So I want to touch on Ryu because I was watching the latest heist, and I had noticed you were talking about Ryu being on the roster and being on your team, and it seemed like you were expressing kind of a reliance on Ryu, as in you expect him to do certain things within your team, which in turn helps you. So how does Ryu really help you in terms of being on the roster?
I mean, I think for me, any player that can be a catalyst for my voice is important. So this kind of goes into like, I'm never going to be as close to the players as the players are to each other.
Yeah.
So especially with Ryu, when I'm like, hey, I want this to be good, or I want to work on this, I can kind of say that kind of stuff to Amazing, and I can say that stuff to Aframu, and they can both get it done in game. And Ryu is just another player I can do that with. So like the more players that I can kind of be that kind of close to kind of be able to give an opinion and kind of get feedback from them, like honest feedback from them, is pretty valuable. And with Ryu, it's, he's not really going to pull any punches. He's like, this is bad, this isn't good, we should do this, we shouldn't do this. And he also is like very honest with himself. So that helps me a lot too, because I really believe in my players. So if they believe they're good at something when like I kind of know they're not, it's really like another internal battle with myself. So I'm like, I really want to believe you, have complete faith in you, but like all the proof I have says no. But Ryu, on the other hand, is like very much like, I play this way and I'm good at these things. So it's easy to kind of draft for him, and then when I know he can't play something, I figured out ways to like get him good at like out of style champions. So I know what he's good at, and then if there's something I believe is really OP, I kind of know how to talk to him and convince him into playing newer things. So that's just kind of like the value that he brings like with our relationship.
So was he somewhat reluctant in returning back to the stage?
Not reluctant. I mean, he really wanted to. I mean, we told him even during the break, if you even want a shot at this, like, you have to go no life League of Legends right now in Korea. Like, don't go out with your friends. Don't have a real life. Like, you need to go start practicing right now because we're off a whole split. And so if you really want to prove you want this, like, show it now and not later. So, no, I mean, he really wanted to come back to LCS stage. Coaching wasn't for him. He doesn't want to play in academy. Like, he wants to play on stage again for sure. So when he got this chance, he was pretty bright about it.
Okay. So I want to touch now on your jungler, Amazing. So what does he bring to your team in terms of like team atmosphere or maybe even gameplay in a sense?
I mean, he's a really loud voice in and out of the game, especially out of the game relative to all the other players, which is really important for me because I need some back and forth. And Maurice is probably always the first one to like talk up against me. So I'm like, awesome. Like we'll figure something out, you know? And I mean, I would say like he's been on enough teams that he knows it's like important to have like a personal relationship with the players, with his players instead of just like super work-life balance kind of thing. And I think on the team before, everyone was like pretty comfortable just being like teammates and not really close to each other. So Maurice like coming in, he's like, I want us to like do stuff together and I want to do things. And everyone like didn't say anything. And I was like, all right, Maurice, let's go out then. And like we just took everyone out. So he brings a big level of like camaraderie and communication, like in and out of game. And he's fine like discussing things. And he's always, I mean, every single time we lose, he just like hates drafts and stuff like that. So that always sparks a conversation about something. So yeah, he's not afraid to speak his mind. So we just, it always just opens up a platform to talk. And I think that's really important.
Okay, that sounds good. It sounds like your team atmosphere has improved a little bit with an outgoing personality.
For sure.
So now I want to touch on your bot lane because in the very beginning, when this roster, kind of had coalesced, Afromu and Bang looked really desynced. And so now they're actually looking quite good. So what has changed between their relationship in terms of both gameplay and outside of the game?
It's a pretty complicated situation, I think, between them because like their personalities like work well together. Like they're pretty close with each other. They're pretty friendly with each other. I think their playstyles are like slightly different, but manageable, like not complete opposites. So with them finally coming together, I think the biggest issue was they're both like veterans and they both respected each other. So neither felt very comfortable like really giving criticism because there's like a underlying assumption that this guy knows this or this guy can improve this. So when things weren't going like well, there's just a big assumption behind like what the abilities are, and it really is like as simple as like, if something goes wrong, you talk about it and you kind of fix it that way, because you're not sure what the other guy's thinking or like why that mistake happened. But that was kind of a big issue for us. Is like they was just really quiet in terms of how they gave each other feedback, because they both respected each other a lot and they're both a lot of veterans. So maybe they felt weird saying like, hey, you should not do this at level 2 because it seems obvious, but it's like the obvious things are what you forget, right? That's like the common League of Legends maintenance that every pro player forgets constantly. You have to keep reminding them. So the synergy between them was really bad because they just, when one was making a mistake, they'd go, well, he'll fix it. It's okay. Instead of being like, dude, what's up? Like, why are we messing this up?
It's too many assumptions.
Yeah. So eventually they got to a point where they're comfortable talking about that, and now they've gotten a lot closer, or like a lot more like comfortable with each other, and they're performing a lot better now.
Okay. Well, so I want to ask, as we're kind of closing into playoffs, what team does 100 Thieves fear the most?
Of the playoff teams? Like the ones that we're battling against, or in general, like the top six?
just in general, all the teams, top seeds, of course, because you probably aren't too worried about Echo Fox, but.
And top seeds wise, I mean, and C9's been playing a lot different than they used to. I think I used to be a lot more scared of them because they just had like really big champion pools and a lot of like tricks, I guess. So unless you're scrimming against them, which we haven't, it's like, you're not going to practice against, one of their, just some of their famous combos that they used to do. So without practicing against it, that feels a little uncomfortable. I mean, TL is obviously really hard to beat because, especially in a best of series going into playoffs, it's like, I mean, you have to beat, they just have so many solid players, right? So there's not like a big weakness you can just expose. You just have to be a really solid team to be able to like develop an advantage. So that's a bit hard because there's not like a clear strategy. Like, some teams you just draft like, this team's really bad at this, so we'll pick these champions and it's great. With TL, it's like,
they're good at everything.
All right, so we just have to pick a good comp. We have to play really well. We can't abuse anything. Like, we just have to play well. So it's like it's not like a hype up speech, right? Hey guys, play well and you can do well. It's like, it's more hype when you're like, all right, these guys suck at this, let's punish this. So there's a little bit less direction against them, so that makes it a little hard. CLG is looking pretty strong. So I think CLG is a little bit scary too. Just because, again, they're just a good, like, coordinated team. So again, like, any of their weaknesses are shored up a bit because no matter what, they're actually going to play well together later in the game. They're not going to like tilt or anything like that. So I'll say those three teams are probably the hardest ones, I'd say.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your time. This has been Zento from Esports Heaven and Pr0lly from 100 Thieves. Thank you.
Now you may be wondering why I got you here. I'm about to fat stack show, so let's be clear. Subscribers were everything around me. Smash that shit like a fake and all old getting rowdy. Stylish discussion, no room for discussion. But for me, it's nothing. Better put this on your checklist. Rhymes be $2.95 a minute, cause boy, they leave you breathless. Woo!